And for my commissioner colleagues to return to the dais. We hope the quick break to stretch our legs helped. And we're going to try to build those into all of our commission meetings for your convenience. And while we will always stay substantive with every agenda item, we will also do all that we can to be efficient with your time this afternoon to get through everything in a timely fashion. So thank you again for coming back to your seats. And we will get started again with Rachel Falsetti on item 20, the 2012 CMIA savings to SHOP reconciliation. Rachel?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. At the request of staff, the Department is bringing forward this information item. It is a pink item in your packet. This item takes the 2012 CMIA savings, and it took those CMIA savings of approximately a little over $200 million and put those on two SHOP projects, which are shown on the front sheet, Gerald Desmond Bridge and DeVore. And then those savings that were taken out of the SHOP were then replaced. We put four SHOP projects forward, which are shown on the back of the sheet, of approximately $200 million. So that's the information. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer anything.
Thank you, Rachel. Questions of the Commission? Seeing none, thank you. We're going to move on with item 21, Proposition 1B savings, criteria for selecting SHOP projects for funding with redirected SHA funds. Stephen Mahler?
Yes, Commissioners, good afternoon. As you remember, at the January meeting, the Commission approved a policy on how to deal with Proposition 1B savings. As part of their approval, you asked staff to, in cooperation with Caltrans, to come up with criteria on what to do with the redirected SHA funds. We have done the consultations, and what we are proposing is that first of all, mobility projects be funded, which are basically TSM projects and congestion relief projects, and then second, bridge rehabilitation projects, and then no other SHOP project category would be used. With that, staff recommends that you approve these criteria.
This is an action item, Commissioners?
So moved.
You guys are good. That was Commissioner Arp and Commissioner Madifer. If this were Jeopardy and they were binging in, though, that would have been close. Any comments? Hearing no comments, let's go ahead and have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. Stephen Mahler, as long as your vocal cords are warm, please go on number 22, Trade Corridor Improvement Fund Program, and this is also an action item.
Yes, Commissioners. In August of 2013, you approved a policy on TCIF savings, in that you put a very short timeline for allocations of June 2014. After staff went out and visited some of the coalitions and project sponsors, we found out that there's not that many projects that are on a shelf ready anymore, and we've been asked to extend the deadline, and we are proposing that you extend the June 2014 deadline to June 2016. With that, staff recommends that you approve those deadline extensions.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti and a second by Commissioner Fromer. Before we go to a vote, however, we do have one card on this item. Paul Hubler with the Alameda Corridor East Construction Authority. If you could step forward, please. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Press your button.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. With that kind of a motion, I'll keep it very brief. We wholeheartedly support the staff recommendation and respectfully request your adoption of it. We moved, my agency, the Alameda Corridor East Construction Authority, moved two projects into the current extension, and we can certainly move at least one more significant grade separation project into the program if you extend it for 2 years. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see if Paul talked anyone out of it by coming up to the microphone. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Thank you, Paul. Stephen Mahler?
Okay, the next item is item 23. Here we will be adding 4 projects to the TCIF program, and staff recommends that you approve the addition of these 4 projects.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, seconded by Commissioner Assimi. There are no cards on this item.
Commissioner Art.
Was it Commissioner Art?
That's all right. We're both Jim.
You're right. Thank you very much for the clarification. That was Commissioner Art, Commissioner Assimi. Any comments from the Commission? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Stephen?
Yes, item 24 is next. In this item, we are approving the baseline agreement for one of the projects we just added, the Tippecanoe Phase 2 project. Staff recommends approval.
There's a motion by Vice Chair Dunn, a second by Commissioner Assimi. Comments by anyone? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item 25,
Yes,
Teresa?
Commissioners, item 25, we're going to be moving that one to the consent calendar. So we'll deal with it on the consent calendar.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephen. We had a real run going there until you moved that to consent. Let's go to item 26, Carrie Bowen on I-5 North and South project update in L.A. County. And congratulations again, Carrie.
Green? Great. Since you said my name, I don't need to introduce myself. I'm the District 7 Director, and I'm here today to brief you on the I-5 corridor in LA County between Orange County and State Route 118. Included in this corridor are two groups of projects referred to in the presentation as I-5 South and I-5 North. The I-5 South is 6.7 miles and consists of 5 projects between the Orange County line and Interstate 605. 3 of the 5 projects in this corridor, the 3 CMIA-funded segments, are currently under construction, with the 4th ready to begin construction. Improvements now include new carpool lanes, mainline lanes, bridge replacement, frontage road upgrades, interchange and ramp reconfigurations, pavement replacement, and construction of a railroad grade separation. Total programmed cost is $1.5 billion. I-5 North is 12.5 miles and consists of 4 projects between State Route 134 and State Route 118. All 4 projects in this corridor are under construction. Improvements include new carpool lanes, new direct carpool lane connectors at the I-5 State Route 170 interchange, pavement replacement, grade separations, ramp and bridge widenings, construction of new interchanges at Empire Avenue in Burbank, and intersection improvements. Total program cost is $884 million. Total program cost for the entire corridor is $2.35 million. In addition to the physical improvements that I just mentioned, I'd like to point out the significant benefits realized by completing the 9 projects on I-5 in the corridor between Orange County and State Route 118. The benefits listed here are what led to these projects being programmed in the CMIA agreement. The images show the existing roadway conditions in LA County compared to Orange County. The photo on top shows conditions on northbound I-5 entering Los Angeles County from Orange County. And the bottom photo shows a configuration of I-5 in Orange County, 4 general purpose lanes and 1 HOV lane in each direction. The I-5 South projects will improve I-5 in LA County so that it matches the Orange County configuration, reducing the bottleneck congestion at the county line in the city of Buena Park. And I-5 South adds a general purpose lane and an HOV lane. I-5 North only adds an HOV lane without adding an additional lane.
Could you go back to that other slide for a moment, just so
Sure.
Vice Chair Dunn can gloat? And now you can move on.
Okay. That is the most frequent question I hear, is why aren't we more like it is here? So you do get to gloat. This pie chart shows the breakdown of the funding sources for both I-5 South and North in all 9 projects. And what you can see is that there really is a true funding partnership with contributions coming from 11 different sources. The state share is about $1.3 billion, or 57%, and the local share is about $1 billion, or about 43%. The total program programmed amount for I-5 South is just under $1.5 billion. And I just wanted to show you a little breakdown, a little clearer breakdown of the types of funding. On I-5 North, as you can see, the total programmed amount is $884 million. And again, multiple types of funding. And I'm going to talk about the projects. Here are the I-5 South projects, each of which is about a mile in length. Some are longer, some are shorter, and they overlap in some places. The numbers in the hard hats represent the construction complete percentage for each project. Three of the five I-5 South projects now in construction are CMIA funded. A fourth, the Florence Avenue Interchange Project, the northernmost project, opened bids on January 9th and is expected to be in construction in the next month or so. The Valley View Avenue project is the southernmost project and is now in design. The current target CCA dates and funding pictures are shown on this slide. The completion of the Florence Avenue Interchange and Valley View Interchange, which bookend I-5, will determine the opening date of the I-5 South to traffic. You can see the I-5 South is fully funded, and we're in the process of working with Metro to shift funds among the projects so they individually are also fully funded. And I'll discuss more later in the presentation. On I-5 South, throughout the project limits, we've encountered difficult right-of-way acquisitions. Some were handled by eminent domain, some involved rework of design, and there were delays associated with getting businesses and residents relocated, which in turn delayed demolition. In addition, over the past year, there's been difficulty in securing a demolition contract that also resulted in delays. Utility relocation of Chevron pipelines, Santa Fe Springs Water District lines, Southern California Edison power lines, Verizon data lines are just a few examples of the ongoing challenges we face with utility relocation on I-5 South, in particular on the Valley View and Florence Interchange projects. The design of the individual project segments took longer to negotiate, also with the JPA cities, as they wanted some entryway design in their areas. And these are the I-5 North projects. The key issues in the north has been utility relocation, which has affected two projects, Empire Avenue Interchange and State Route 134 to Magnolia. In both cases, we've developed solutions to the utility challenges and are working to keep the projects on schedule. As you can see from this table, the construction of the I-5 North is scheduled to be complete in 2019. We are, however, gearing towards opening two northernmost segments of the I-5 North projects from Buena Vista to State Route 118 within a year. And as shown in this chart, there's a projected savings of $82 million. The issues on I-5 North largely deal with utility relocation inside the state right-of-way and Southern California Regional Rail Authority. The right-of-way constitutes the majority of the scheduled delay. The project has been in suspension since last April. Major relocation work inside the rail right-of-way included oil pipeline and Sprint fiber optic lines, and they have been completed. We're now working with Burbank Water and Power and AT&T to relocate the remaining utilities, and construction should begin next month. The four CMIA-funded projects on I-5 South and I-5 North are shown above: Imperial Highway, Rosecrans, Alondra, and Alondra Interchange projects in the south, and the Empire Interchange in the north. Metro has agreed that the $19 million shortfall shown will be funded from other non-CMIA-funded projects in the corridor. We brought in dedicated staff and independent consultants to update the risk registers for all projects and perform a risk analysis for each project in the entire corridor. High cost, high impact risk items identified in the risk registers are being actively managed as shown here. Slow progress in utility relocation by utility companies, difficulty in obtaining right-of-way, soil conditions harder than original tests indicated, and modifying the blocks used to construct the sound walls have led to delays and costs. unexpected soil conditions and a hazardous Superfund site discovery and construction, and unknown utilities and management of traffic had all led to design modification delays and increased costs. Based on each project's risk register, the risk analysis identified the costs associated with the project risks. The risk analysis is at a 70% confidence level, identified a $2.9 million shortfall on I-5 South and a surplus of $65.7 million on I-5 North. The net result then for the entire I-5 corridor from Orange County to State Route 118 is a total savings of $62.8 million. In summary, of the 9 projects on I-5 in the corridor between Orange County and State Route 118, the last project is scheduled to be delivered in the next few months. We can and will manage the corridor of projects, including the costs associated with the risks within the program budgets, and the benefits originally committed to in the CMIA agreements will be realized in 2019. With that, I'm pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for the overview. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Arp, your light is on. Did you have a question?
No.
Thank you for turning on your light to let us know that. Questions, colleagues? Okay. For that one slide that we went back to for Commissioner Dunn, if our LA delegation would like rebuttal time, please let us know.
We agree.
Commissioner Inman.
Well, I live in both worlds since I live in Orange County and work in Los Angeles. So I would say that it's a revenue source for Orange County, because after you've been stuck on the LA side, when you hit the Orange County side, you tend to maybe go a little too fast. So they are raising a little revenue there. But Carrie, thank you very much for that. The only clarification I would have is when you talk about the I-5 corridor and kind of describe it from Orange County line to 118, it's really only the active parts, because we've still got a lot of I-5 that are north of the I-5 South.
Okay.
That, you know, it's not all of the I-5 corridor.
Right, it's not the entire
We've got a
corridor.
lot of work left to do near the 710 and the I-5 South, so I don't want people to think that we're going to have it all smooth sailing. But the question I have, you and I have talked about a little bit, is it's my market research by driving that corridor, so there's no science behind it. But my perception is already we've seen improvements on that Carmenita, you know, where we had that very dangerous, you're turned off and you're in Lowe's parking lot immediately. And it seems to me like even though we're under construction, we might be having better throughput through that corridor. Do you have any numbers to back that up?
I don't have the numbers with me. I remember when you talked to me about this a couple of months ago, I did ask traffic to look into it, and there was a very tiny, tiny difference. So maybe the time you drove there was more of a difference, but...
Well, it seems like we can already notice, so I'm hoping the public,
Good.
Obviously, when we have construction lane closures and stuff, the public knows it, but I think already we should be feeling the fruits of your efforts, so thank you.
Great.
And David Yale, you're sitting over there, you're all in agreement, since this is partially your project,
I was
too?
just going to add that.
Yes, we are in agreement with the presentation and look forward to finishing this stuff up.
I did want to add that we did work closely with David and with Metro for this presentation, reviewing the numbers, and they've been a very good partner to work with, and I would say our partnership is actually really improving, and I appreciate that. It's been great.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, David.
Thanks.
We've already covered item 27, the Gerald Desmond Bridge. We're going to go to 28, San Francisco Bay Area Toll Bridge Seismic Retrofit Program. Stephen Mahler.
Yes, Commissioners, as you are all aware, the new east span of the Bay Bridge has been open to traffic since September. We expect the prime contractor on the SAS structure, American Bridge Fluor, to be completed and out of there by late July, early August. On the demolition of the bridge, if you drive by, you will see that the old bridge is disappearing. The upper and lower decks have been going, and probably end of this month or beginning of next month, contract will actually physically cut the truss, and then the truss members will disappear and your view will improve. And The contract was a little bit behind schedule because we were trying to evict the birds, but they didn't want to read their eviction notices. But we finally persuaded one to move, and in your quarterly report that's part of your book, there's a picture of one falcon that we actually finally persuaded to move from the old bridge and take up residence on the new bridge. So with that, that's my report, unless you have any questions.
Questions for Stephen? Stephen, thank you. We're moving on to 29, an action item, approval of projects for future consideration of funding. Laura and Katrina?
Commissioners,
Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Commissioners, this is an action item. It is the final EIR for the I-5 North Coast Corridor project in San Diego County. The FEIR identified that this project will have significant unavoidable visual and aesthetic impacts. Caltrans adopted a statement of overriding considerations, finding that the project benefits outweigh the impacts. We've been made aware that litigation has been filed against the FEIR. However, a stay or injunction has not been issued at this time. Staff recommends that you accept the EIR overriding considerations and approve the project for future consideration of funding.
Move approval.
Commissioner Fromer moves staff recommendation. I believe Commissioner Taglioni made the second. Commissioner Medaffer made the second. Anyone have questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposition? That passes unanimously. Thank you. The information calendar is next. Stephen Muller?
Yes, Commissioners. The next 10 agenda items are information items deemed by staff not to raise any concerns. I just want to bring something to your attention under item 38. Under the local bridge seismic retrofit reports, I'm starting to have the department report there on the 10 bridges that are the furthest behind in delivery. There's about 184 bridges left out of the 1,200 bridges, and these are the ones that are the furthest behind. But 2 years ago, we had an effort where we brought bridges that were in the pre-strategy category up to the Commissioner's attention, and with your pressure, those bridges have been out of that category and are being delivered. We're going to be starting pressure now on the bridges that are in the design category. With that, that's information calendar, and we can move on to the consent calendar unless you have any questions.
Questions of Stephen on any items on the information calendar? Let's move on then to the consent calendar. Stephen?
Yes, Commissioners. The next...
It starts with item 40?
Yes, the next 25 agenda items, 40 through 64 are consent items. The following changes need to be identified. Tab 25, the Highway Railroad Crossing Account Program Amendment, is added to the consent calendar. Tab 45 and 46, approval of projects for future consideration of funding. Resolutions were revised to indicate projects will not have a significant effect on the environment. Tab number 50, resolutions of necessity. We now have 19 uncontested resolutions of necessity, not 23. Resolution C 21181, C 21194, C 21195, and C 211200 have been withdrawn by the department because owners have requested appearances. Under tab 51, Director's Deeds, deed number 03-DD032588-01-01 is pulled at the request of the department. Tab number 57, TCIF allocation amendment is pulled at the request of the department and Sandbag. And tab 61, TLSP financial allocation amendment project IDs were added. With these noted changes, staff recommends approval of the consent calendar.
Move approval.
There was a motion by Commissioner Gilmetti, a second by Commissioner Medaffer. Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Stephen. And we've just moved past the consent calendar to item 65. We're back to the STIP, and Laurel.
Yes, Commissioners, we've made it to the action item. We haven't had any changes during the intervening hours that we've waited since the hearing. So in accordance with the discussion this morning and the changes outlined in the revised pink resolution that you have dated March 18th, Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the 2014 STIP.
So moved.
That one was close, but I think that was a motion by Commissioner Arf and a second by Commissioner Assimi. Is there any further discussion on the adoption of the STIP? Going once, twice. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Laurel, fantastic work. Thank you for all that you've done. We have a 2014 STIP. There were a lot of comments about how we might do this in 2016. We want you all to stay engaged in that process, and we appreciate the leadership of the Secretary and the Director as we look forward for the 2016 STIP. We are moving on to item 66. Juan Guzman and Rachel Falsetti.
Commissioners, this is an action item. This is the approval of the 2014 SHOP. As you may remember, the department has prepared the SHOP in accordance to the law, presented it, they put out a draft, made it available to the regional agencies for their comments, and the proposed SHOP was brought to the Commission at the January meeting, and the department now is bringing the final SHOP with a few projects that are being added. But I'm going to recommend that you approve the SHOP. Before that, though, Rachel has a presentation on the SHOP program for the benefit of the Commission.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm pleased to be here to discuss one of the most critical functions of the Department, the maintenance, preservation, and operation of the 50,000 lane-mile state highway system, which is the backbone of the California transportation system. One of the most important tools the Department has in carrying forth this function is the State Highway Operation Protection Program, or the SHOP, that we're discussing today. The purpose of today's presentation is to discuss the 2014 SHOP. California Code defines the priorities for the use of the state highway account to be the operation, maintenance, and preservation of the state highway system. The Department implements these priorities through a variety of activities. These activities include both the maintenance program and capital improvement projects programmed in the SHOP. SHOP projects are limited to capital improvements relative to maintenance, safety, rehabilitation, and operational improvements of state highways and bridges that do not add new capacity lanes to the system. The state map on this slide is there to illustrate the statewide nature of the SHOP. Each dot on that map represents a project in the 2014 SHOP. The 2014 SHOP contains projects across the state based on rehabilitation needs. And it is no surprise the largest concentrations of dots are in the areas with the most population. I'm going to go through this slide quickly. This shows the California State Highway System, and these are all of the assets that we are responsible to maintain. One thing to note is much of the system was built in the 50s and 60s and early 70s to serve the growing population, and many of these assets are reaching the end of their service lives and at an age where deterioration occurs faster than previously. In addition to the fact that our system is deteriorating, there's also additional needs that we have for mandates that come forward, such as the ADA, or Americans with Disability Act, retrofitting, and stormwater, and those responsibilities also come out of the SHOP. As far as the development cycle for the SHOP actually goes through a development cycle every 2 years. It starts with the 10-year plan, and that's a projection of what we need for 10 years to maintain our system. It actually informs the fund estimate as to how much funding that we need, and then project initiation documents come out of those. When the PIDs are complete, then those cycle back into the 4-year program. The thing to note about the 10-year plan is there's far fewer dollars than we actually have a need for. So if you look over time, right now we're at a need of $8.2 billion per year for a goal constraint. And goals basically means, for example, we want to get to 10% distressed for pavement. So if we were to be able to do that, we'd need $8.2 billion with all the other goals. What we have right now is $2.3 billion funding per year. So clearly there's a large gap in our need versus the financially constrained, what we have available. The next few slides just illustrate a few of the different types of projects that we come forward with. The first, restoring roadways, that's actually emergency projects. We have a number of emergency projects that we pay for. That's actually the maze up in when the fire happened up in the Oakland area, near the Bay Bridge. The next is we have to do things like comply with ADA, and clearly that we haven't complied yet in this slide, but we would need to fix that to comply with ADA. We do things proactively like upgrading guardrail to the current standards, adding median barrier to make the roadway more safe. And then things that you guys are all very familiar with, where a good majority of funding goes to rehabilitating the pavement and rehabilitating bridges. And those are the aging infrastructure where a good majority of dollars go to. The plan itself, the 2014 SHOP versus the 2013 10-year plan, so the plan is a year before the program. Basically, this shows our constraints, and we were able to fund the financial constraint, at least, of what we thought we would be able to, all the top priorities. So you see that red line, that bold red line. It shows that the majority of funds are going to major damage restoration, collision reduction, which is safety, mandates, stormwater, ADA, bridge and roadway preservation, and then we're starting to do a modest amount of mobility improvements, but clearly we still would need quite a bit more. We have no money to do things such as roadside rests, and no money for other facility type things that we would potentially need to do. There is a small amount of money that we're always put forward for minor program, and the minor program is little small things that come forward that the district director has discretion to do. But basically, clearly we're underfunded, but again, this shows that the majority is on that top part, and we do have a line below which we don't have a lot of funding. Here's the process. Basically, as far as part of the process, we did outreach with regional agencies. We've been enhancing that. We talked to the regional agencies about the projects we're going to be coming forward with. We do provide our plan to regional agencies, our program, in November. We submitted it to you initially in January, and now we are bringing it back to you for approval, for you to send to the legislature by April 1st. With that, are there any questions on the current 2014 SHOP program?
Questions or comments, Commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Assemi.
Rachel, so if funding was available at $8.2 billion, what would happen?
If funding were available at $8.2 billion, Malcolm, do you want me to answer that, or would you like to?
What happens in future years? Does it go to just... What is it?
Well, so if we had $8.2 billion, we would be able to take care of the system so that the distressed lane miles would go down. We would be able to maintain the system in the way we would.
Funding in future years, would the required funding for future years would drop substantially? What would happen?
Oh, at some point that would drop some. Yeah, that would be true because
And I think that time frame would be in 10 years. You know, this is why the 10-year plan forecast the need for the $8.2 billion.
So this is almost going up exponentially.
Right? Well, yes. It is.
So can we, I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is if we showed that we had more dollars today, how much more savings would we have down the road? I mean, have we done a study to come up with those dollars? In other words, if we were fully funded for a few years, how much would this? Here comes Norma. How much would we save? How much would this federal?
Yeah.
How many federal dollars would we save?
Well, let me try to answer it this way. No. If you were able to provide $8.2 billion a year for 10 years, then the condition of the system, would be reduced to a level that could, with the lower amount of funding than the following years, you could maintain it. So you would be able to do an investment of, say, at that point it'd probably be like $3 billion a year. So by $3 billion a year, you would be able to just constantly, you wouldn't have that need of.
I mean, have you done an analysis so we can provide the?
We have, and actually that's not a bad stab at what it would cost us to maintain the infrastructure in the condition we wanted it to be. We have a lot of catch-up to do. But it is $2-3 billion, if not a little bit more, to maintain it because it ages as you go along. One other point that I do want to inject is As money is identified, there is also resources that go along with having to deliver that program, as well as a time element to get ready to deliver those projects. And we don't want to lose sight of that. We do not have a shelf of projects ready to go when money is identified. We have a lag time to make that money productive because we have exhausted our shelf. So those are other important aspects to the need of just funding.
And there's one other additional thing. This does not assume any additional, any additions to the existing system, and we continue to have some level of additions to the existing system.
Great. I think the main thing would happen if we had $82 billion for this in 10 years is we'd need smelling salts for the entire commission to revive us. Vice Chair Dunn?
Thanks, Rachel. On slide number 5, well, we just were talking about the $8.2 billion needed. My question is, of the $8.2 billion, is that a wish list of the best that you would want, or is that real?
That is a goal-constrained number. So basically, it means, like I said, 10% distressed pavement. So no, it's not it is goal-constrained. We do have goals for all the different programs. It's real.
Okay.
It is a real number.
That's interesting. And of that, what percentage of that number could be if the rules were changed or if agencies wanted to take on, what percentage of that 8.2 could be picked up by local transportation agencies using Measure M local funds?
Well, it's all within our state highway system, so certainly they could choose to put some of their funding on it. Whether they would or not would be the question.
That's not my question. If they chose to...
It's all eligible.
Yeah, it is all eligible.
All eligible. So 100% could be done at the local level if they wanted to.
They could put their fund, yes,
Okay.
they could.
So there could be some efficiencies in a system between a Caltrans and an OCTA should they want to take on some of that.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dunn. Commissioner Assemi, did you have a follow-up question?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions from the Commission to either Rachel or to Juan? Seeing none, this is an action item.
Move staff recommendation.
That was Commissioner Arp and Commissioner Assemi, who really want to see that basketball game. Anything else from commissioners? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Juan and Rachel. We're moving on to 67. Laurel Jensen.
Yes, Commissioners, item 67 or 68, these are STIP amendments for notice. These are information items at this time. These are to program border infrastructure funds for construction of projects in San Diego County.
Move approval.
No,
It's an information item, but I love your eagerness.
I move approval anyway. I think it's great.
These will come back for action at the next meeting.
Thank you.
And
I see that notice now. My apologies.
Well, let's move it for the next meeting then.
and I think one of these will be paired with a TCIF amendment at the same time. It's a multi-funded.
That was almost Pavlovian. Let me try that. San Diego County.
Move approval.
There you go. Item 69. Juan Guzman, this is an action item?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Action item, it's the monthly allocation for minor projects in the shop, and this is a request by the department for 2 projects for $1,391,000. Staff recommends your approval.
Moved by Commissioner Tavaloni, seconded by Commissioner Assemi. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. We're on to 71. Laurel.
Item 70, Commissioner.
Oh,
sorry.
I skipped one. Sorry.
Commissioners, this is also an action item. This is also a financial allocation for shop projects. These are the shop projects that are programmed and the amended projects into the shop. This is a total of 29 projects for $198,788,000. Staff recommends your approval.
That was Commissioner Tavaloni and Vice Chair Dunn. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. And as I said earlier, item 71.
Yes, Commissioners, items 71 through 74 are action items. These are allocations for STIP projects. Under item 71, It's for two projects for a little over $3 million. Want to note a change on project number 1. They are requesting to have non-proportional expending on this project, and staff will recommend approval of that. Under item 72, it's an action item to allocate to the Route 138 widening project in San Bernardino County. There are changes on the change list for that item. Under item 73, it's an action item to allocate border infrastructure funds totaling $800,000 for a project in San Diego. And under item 74, it's an action item to allocate a little over $7 million for locally administered STIP projects. Again, there's a change on the change list. Project number 5 was withdrawn. Staff will recommend your approval of all 4 of those items.
So moved.
Commissioner Madaffer and Commissioner Tavaloni, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. 75, Laurel?
Yes, Commissioners, this is an action item. This is an allocation amendment per AB 608. This is an item to amend the original STIP construction allocation to account for savings at award. Staff recommends your approval of this item.
So moved.
Second. Commissioner Arp and Commissioner Assemi, comments? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. Who's filling in for Mitch?
Item 76 was withdrawn by the department.
Thank you. Item 77, Stephen?
Yes, Commissioners, items 77, 78, and 79 are Prop 1B allocations. Staff recommends approval.
That was moved by Commissioner Tavaloni and seconded by Commissioner Burke. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Juan, that brings us to 80.
Thank you, Commissioners. And Commissioners, I'd like to take items 80 through 85 together. These are the time extensions on this month's agenda. You should probably have the updated spreadsheet, but I'll note that on item 82, there's an item on the change list. Projects 2 and 3 have been withdrawn. And then on item 84, that request has been withdrawn. With those noted changes, staff recommends that you approve items 80 through 85 according to the spreadsheet.
Commissioner Gilmetti made the motion. Vice Chair Dunn, the second. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
We're done.
We now have time for public comments. Are there members of the public who would like to speak? We have 87 cards. Just seeing if you're paying attention. We do have 3 cards. We're going to ask members of the public, if they can, to limit their comments to 2 minutes. And if they could line up for efficiency's sake, we will first hear from Richard Helgeson, then Diana Mahmood, who's a council member in the city of South Pasadena, and Craig Durfee. Again, 2 minutes each, please, and thank you for joining us at the commission meeting today. Richard.
Well, thank you for hearing me. I'm addressing you because of concerns I had that arose out of the December 11th meeting. And at that meeting, there were a number of citizens that showed up on the I-710 San Gabriel Valley Gap closure. That's the tunnel. And there were concerns that there was no outreach to minority and low-income communities. And somebody said, well, Metro's doing that. We don't have any control over Metro. So I went back and read the MOU between the federal government and Caltrans. And in section 4.2.2 of that MOU, it says that you have to have oversight over the consultants that you have doing the CIS. Now, this is not a CEQA problem, it's a NEPA problem. NEPA requires, and I can give you cites into the Code of Federal Regulations, into executive orders since the Clinton administration, that you have outreach to minority and low-income communities that are affected by this. The only outreach that's been made is in San Marino, not a low-income community. the estate area of Pasadena, the southern part. They sell houses there for $10 million. And in Alhambra and Monterey Park. And the Northwest Commission in Pasadena, which represents Black and Hispanic area of Pasadena, Northwest Pasadena is largely Black and Hispanic, asked Metro to come out and meet with them and tell them what this project was about, the effects of it, what they were looking at. And Metro refused. They refused. And somebody said, well, go talk to Metro. No. It's your response, and it's his responsibility. Caltrans should be talking to Metro. And the fact that you have no MOU on this, on Metro's conduct of the EIS, not the EIR. The EIS is your responsibility, and you're doing it through Metro. It's just not good. Somebody needs to make a phone call down there to maybe meet with El Sereno and with the Northwest Pasadena Commission.
And thank you, Mr. Helgeson, for being at our entire commission meeting today, for the chance to speak on this, and for joining us in December as well. Director Doherty, would you like to respond at all before we move on to the next public comment?
Duly noted, and I think it is actually accurately captured that we have the responsibility of making sure that any responsibility of technical studies that Metro is doing that are done correctly, and we are working on a cooperative agreement between the two agencies to ensure that we have roles and responsibilities well defined. So comments are duly noted.
Great. Thank you. And I assume as needed you can follow, your team can follow up as well. Mr. Helgeson, thank you again for coming. We appreciate it. We're going to hear from Council Member Diana Mahmoud, City of South Pasadena.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you so much. You have before you a letter that was submitted by the Arroyo Verdugo subregion. The City of South Pasadena is one of 5 cities. They consist of Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, South Pasadena, and the city of La Cañada, Flint Ridge. In that letter, the Arroyo Verdugo cities request that you favorably consider supporting our request for a 120-day comment period for responding to the draft EIR on the 710 extension. Now, as Commissioner Darius Assemi noted, this is the first day of spring, and Metro has assured us, as has Caltrans, to expect the draft EIR in the spring. So any day now, we're awaiting the receipt of a fairly lengthy document. But this is a very contentious issue, as you probably are well aware. We anticipate that some of the issues in particular will be very contentious, and specifically geology, air quality, and we really urge you to give us the opportunity to have our experts, as well as those supporters of the projects, sufficient time to adequately review all of the scientific information that will be presented. This issue of the extension, or what to do with the terminus of the 710, I don't know exactly what my response is. It's been around for over 5 decades, and that is almost as old as I am. So it's been around for a long time. I really don't think that the additional 60 days will harm, particularly in light of the legacy of this issue. I would also note that another project probably involving more scientific issues, certainly probably more contentious, the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, was recently granted an additional 60-day time period for responsive comments, and that now has a window of 180 days for comments. So we really believe our 120 days is very reasonable, and we ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Council Member, thank you as well for joining us today, for driving all the way here, or taking your bike here, or however you transported yourself here. And our final speaker today, with 2 minutes for public comments, is Craig Durfee. Craig, welcome back.
First time they've been in a commission meeting. I say you guys are doing a great job in the audience. It's great. I have to say that because I'm really impressed. And you guys have had more meetings experience than I do, but I just wanted to offer that comment right first. My goal here is not to be redundant, but I think there's a key thing here. The state of Utah is ahead of us. They have a program for zero tolerance. And I want to take the body of the letter that you have out of this, Secretary Brian Carroll, respectfully, towards zero death Everyone counts. It's the vision and statement of the Office of Transportation Safety. This plan helps to implement and continue the office role as a national leader in both thought and action. The agency is unwavering in support and efforts and goals framed by this report. I would ask that we create a zero tolerance webpage. I ask that we have a multi-language based program for distracted driving and pedestrian safety. I'd ask that currently we don't have that in California. I'd ask for the consideration of support for DMV that require youth to take a distracted driving class with our technology that's bad as a DUI. Currently, City of Irvine does that through their parking permit. They have to get a distracted driving course. I think that getting our education system to embrace this will be a great way to give them life skills. And I hope that the Secretary Brian Kelly will back me with OTS, because right now we have challenges that are because of budget reasons. We have to find alternative ways to change the behavior of our society. Thank you.
Craig, thank you for your time and your concern about distracted driving. At least in some counties in California, April is actually Distracted Driving Awareness Month as well. I don't know if it is statewide, but obviously a very important issue. Commissioners, do you have any final comments before we adjourn today? Looking down, yes, Director Doherty.
I have a public service announcement. If you're going south, there was a major accident on I-5 in the city of San Clemente, and as many as 4 of the lanes were closed. So check your options before you depart if you're going south.
And use your toll booth.
If I could ask everyone here to please look at their watches for a moment. If you could look at your watch and look at the estimated adjournment time of 5:30, take the next 61 minutes off, go crazy. Thank you all for coming today. This meeting is adjourned.